The research station's alarm screamed through every corridor, red lights flashing in rhythm with the warning sirens. Dr. Rebecca Hayes ran through the observation deck, her boots pounding against metal floors. Behind her, 3 other scientists rushed to keep pace, their faces pale with fear. They had lost another drone. That made 5 in 3 days. Rebecca slammed her hand against the control panel, bringing up the last footage from the destroyed machine. The screen flickered, showing dense jungle canopy, massive trees with purple leaves, and then nothing. Just static and a brief glimpse of something large and dark moving faster than anything that size should move. "We need to leave this moon," said Peter, the station's security chief. His hand rested on his weapon. "Whatever is down there, it's hunting our equipment. Soon it will come for us." Rebecca shook her head. "It's not just hunting. Look at the pattern." She pulled up a map showing where each drone had been destroyed. "It's creating a perimeter, marking territory. That requires intelligence." "Intelligent predators are worse than mindless ones," Peter replied. The other scientists gathered around the display. They had been orbiting this jungle moon for 2 months, studying its ecosystem from safety. The planet was rich with life, strange plants that glowed at night, rivers that ran with water cleaner than any Earth stream, and creatures that defied classification. But one life form dominated everything else. The thermal scanners had picked up its signature a week ago. 6 meters tall, 400 kilograms of pure muscle and armor, body temperature that suggested a metabolism unlike anything in the human database. "I'm taking a team down tomorrow," Rebecca announced. The room fell silent. "That's suicide," Peter said flatly. "It's science," Rebecca corrected. "We came here to study alien life. This creature is the apex predator of an entire moon. We can't leave without understanding it." The next morning, 4 humans descended in a small shuttle. Rebecca had chosen her team carefully. Peter came along armed and alert. Liam, their medical officer, carried his field kit and a nervous expression. And Amy, a young biologist who specialized in animal behavior, clutched her recording equipment like a lifeline. The shuttle landed in a clearing near the forest edge. The moment the door opened, the heat hit them like a physical force. The air was thick and humid, filled with sounds of creatures calling to each other through the trees. Strange insects buzzed past, their wings catching the light and scattering it into rainbow patterns. "Stay together," Peter ordered, his weapon ready, "and stay alert." They moved into the forest, following the path where the last drone had been destroyed. The trees here were ancient, their trunks wide enough that 5 humans holding hands couldn't circle them. Vines hung down like curtains, and the ground was soft with fallen leaves that released sweet smells when crushed underfoot. Amy stopped suddenly, pointing at something on a tree trunk. "Look at this." Deep gouges ran down the bark, parallel lines carved by something with massive claws. The marks were fresh, sap still leaking from the wounds. Rebecca measured them with her hand. Each claw mark was longer than her forearm. "It knows we're here," Amy whispered. They continued deeper, finding more signs. Broken branches too high for any human to reach. A cleared area where something large had rested, grass pressed flat in the shape of a huge body, and then bones, picked clean and arranged in a pattern that suggested tool use. Rebecca knelt beside the bones, her scientific mind racing. "It's not just killing to eat. It's creating something. Look how these are placed." The bones formed a rough circle, each one positioned with care. In the center lay a stone that had been shaped and sharpened. "We need to go back," Peter said, his voice tight with tension. Now, that's when they heard it. A sound like rocks grinding together, deep and resonant. It came from everywhere and nowhere, echoing through the forest. The team froze, their hearts hammering. The forest around them had gone silent. No insect sounds, no bird calls, nothing but that grinding, rumbling noise that might have been breathing. Rebecca turned slowly, scanning the trees. At first she saw nothing. Then movement caught her eye. Something massive shifted in the shadows between 2 enormous trees. 4 eyes opened, glowing faint yellow in the darkness. Each eye was the size of a human fist, and they all focused on the small group of humans with an intelligence that made Rebecca's blood run cold. The creature stepped forward into a shaft of sunlight. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Scales covered its body, each one overlapping like armor, colored in shades of deep green and black that had let it hide perfectly in the forest. 4 muscular legs ended in claws that dug into the earth with each step. Its head was massive, with a mouth full of teeth designed for tearing, But those eyes held something more than animal instinct. They studied the humans with curiosity and calculation. "Don't move," Rebecca breathed. "Don't even breathe loud." The creature tilted its head, examining them from different angles. It took another step closer. Then another. Peter raised his weapon, but Rebecca grabbed his arm. "Wait," she whispered. The creature stopped, its eyes fixed on Rebecca. For a long moment, human and beast regarded each other across the small clearing. Rebecca felt certain she was about to die, but she also felt something else. Recognition. The creature wasn't seeing prey. It was seeing another thinking being. Then, with a sound like a boulder rolling down a hill, the creature turned and vanished into the forest. One moment it was there, massive and impossible to miss. The next moment gone completely. The team stood frozen for 3 full minutes before anyone dared to move. "Back to the shuttle," Peter ordered, his voice shaking. Now they ran, but as Rebecca climbed aboard and looked back at the forest, she saw those 4 yellow eyes watching from the shadows. The creature had let them live. That meant something. That meant everything. She would return tomorrow. 3 weeks passed, and the observation posts grew into a small settlement around the forest edge. Rebecca refused to abandon the research despite protests from the station command. She had seen intelligence in those 4 yellow eyes, and she needed to understand it. The team set up cameras throughout the perimeter, motion sensors that fed data back to their computers, and audio recorders that captured every sound from the forest. What they discovered changed everything they thought they knew about alien predators. Liam sat in front of a wall of monitors, his coffee long since gone cold. "Rebecca, you need to see this." She joined him, watching footage from the previous night. The creature moved through the forest like a shadow, but this time the cameras caught it hunting. It stalked a herd of large, deer-like animals that grazed in a meadow. But the creature didn't simply charge and kill. It circled downwind, testing the air. It moved rocks and branches to create a barrier on one side of the meadow. It positioned itself where the animals would run when startled. Then it made a sound, a sharp crack like breaking wood from the opposite direction. The herd bolted straight into the barrier, panicking and turning. The creature took down 2 in seconds, quick and efficient. But what it did next made Rebecca lean forward in amazement. It dragged both kills to a flat area and used its claws to separate the meat from the bones with surgical precision. The bones were cleaned and set aside in organized piles. The meat was divided into portions, and then the creature took one portion and carried it to a specific tree, leaving it there before returning for its own meal. "It's leaving offerings," Amy said from behind them, "or payment. Or both. For what?" Liam asked. "Watch." Amy pointed at the screen. Hours later, after the creature had left, smaller animals emerged from the forest. They approached the offered meat carefully, ate some, and scattered when anything made noise. But they kept returning, growing bolder. "It's feeding them," Rebecca whispered. "It's taking care of other species in its territory." Over the following days, they documented more behaviors. The creature used stones to sharpen bones into tools. It created shelter under a massive fallen tree, arranging leaves and branches for comfort. It had a routine, patrolling its territory at dawn and dusk, drinking from the same stream each day, resting in the heat of afternoon. And it was watching the humans. Just as they watched it, Peter spotted it first during a supply run. There in the trees, 50 meters out, the creature stood partially hidden, those 4 eyes fixed on the humans as they unloaded equipment. It made no aggressive moves, showed no signs of attacking. It simply observed. "It's studying us," Rebecca said. "That's not comforting," Peter replied. They started leaving it alone, giving it space. The cameras continued recording, building a library of behavior that Rebecca studied every night. She noticed patterns in its vocalizations. The grinding sounds it made weren't random. Different tones for different situations, short rumbles when moving through heavy brush, longer, deeper sounds when marking territory, and sometimes, late at night, something that almost sounded like singing. Amy worked on analyzing the audio recordings. "I think it's language," she told Rebecca one evening. "Simple but structured. Listen to this." She played a sequence of sounds. "This pattern repeats every time it finds water. And this one," another sequence played, "happens when it's hunting. It's communicating something, even if there's no one else to hear it." "Maybe it's talking to itself," Liam suggested. "Intelligent beings think in language." The breakthrough came during week 4. Rebecca was checking camera feeds when she saw the creature doing something new. It had found a piece of drone wreckage, one of the machines it had destroyed in the first week. But instead of ignoring it or destroying it further, the creature examined it carefully. It turned the pieces over with surprising gentleness, studying the metal and circuits. Then it began arranging the pieces, creating a pattern, the same kind of circular pattern it had made with bones. "It's trying to understand our technology," Rebecca breathed. That night she made a decision. She took a simple tool from their supplies, a basic cutting blade with a handle, and walked to the edge of the forest. The security team protested, but she insisted on going alone. She found a flat rock near where the creature regularly passed and placed the tool there. Then she backed away and returned to camp. The cameras caught what happened next. At dawn, the creature approached the rock. It circled it several times, clearly suspicious. Its nose tested the air. Finally, it reached out one massive claw and picked up the tool. It examined the blade, touched it gently to test its sharpness, and then looked directly at the nearest camera. For a long moment, the creature and Rebecca, watching through the monitor, locked eyes across the distance. Then the creature did something that made Rebecca's heart skip. It dipped its head once, a clear nod of acknowledgement, and took the tool with it into the forest. "It knows we're watching," Amy said. "It knows about the cameras." The next morning, Rebecca found something on the same rock. A bundle of unusual plants, their roots carefully cleaned, tied together with vine. Next to them sat 3 smooth stones, each one perfectly round as if tumbled in water for years. "It's returning the gift," Liam said, wonder in his voice. "It's establishing communication," Rebecca corrected. "Gift for gift." "Recognition of intelligence," Peter shook his head. "This is unprecedented. An apex predator that uses tools, has language, and is trying to communicate with aliens. Command isn't going to believe this." "I don't care if they believe it," Rebecca said. "This changes everything we know about intelligence in the universe. We're not dealing with an animal. We're dealing with a person. A different kind of person, but a person nonetheless." From that day forward, the relationship shifted. The humans left gifts at the rock, tools, food, interesting objects. The creature returned them with offerings from the forest. Plants that had medicinal properties, stones with beautiful patterns. Once a feather from some enormous bird, iridescent and lovely. But the creature never came closer. It maintained its distance, watching and learning, but not approaching. It trusted the humans enough to exchange gifts, but not enough to drop its guard. Rebecca understood. This was a being that had survived by trusting nothing and no one. Every instinct it had developed over its long life told it to stay isolated and safe. Breaking through that would require more than gifts and gestures. It would require the creature to need something it couldn't provide for itself, something only the humans could offer. Rebecca hoped that day would never come, because it would mean the creature was in desperate trouble. She had no idea how soon that day would arrive. The forest was too quiet. Rebecca noticed it first during her morning check of the camera feeds. The usual sounds of insects and smaller creatures had vanished, replaced by an uneasy silence that made her skin prickle. Something was wrong. She pulled up the thermal imaging from overnight. There, moving through the trees near the creature's territory, she saw multiple heat signatures, large ones. At first she thought they might be more of the deer-like animals. But the way they moved was different, purposeful, hunting. "Liam, Amy, get over here," she called out. They gathered around her screen as she replayed the footage. 3 shapes, each nearly as large as their creature, moved in formation through the forest. They were hunting something, working together like a pack. "Are those the same species as our creature?" Amy asked. "I think so," Rebecca said, adjusting the image quality. "Look at the body structure. Same basic shape, same size, but they're behaving differently. More aggressive." Liam leaned closer. "Our creature is solitary. These are pack hunters. That's not good." The cameras tracked the 3 intruders as they pushed deeper into the territory. Trees crashed as they moved, marking their path with destruction. The smaller animals fled in panic, birds taking flight in clouds that darkened the sky, and somewhere ahead the creature they had been studying for weeks was in their path. "We have to warn it," Amy said. "How?" Peter asked. "It's not like we can call it on a phone." Rebecca was already moving, grabbing equipment. "The emergency alert system. High-frequency sound burst. It should get its attention." She ran to the communications array and started programming the alert. Behind her, the others watched the monitors as the three intruders closed in on their creature's usual resting area. The confrontation was inevitable. The alert blasted through speakers positioned around the forest edge. A sharp, piercing sound that cut through the morning air. On the monitors, they saw their creature's head snap up from where it had been drinking at the stream. All four eyes focused toward the human settlement. Then it heard something else and turned. The three intruders burst through the tree line. What happened next was brutal and fast. The intruders attacked together, coordinated and vicious. Their creature fought back with desperate strength, claws and teeth flashing. But it was 1 against 3, and the intruders had the advantage of surprise and numbers. Rebecca watched in horror as their creature took a devastating blow across its torso. Dark blood sprang across the ground. It roared, a sound of pain and fury that echoed through the forest and made the humans flinch even at this distance. The creature fought its way free, using its greater intelligence to turn the fight into a chase, leading the intruders away from what must be something it was protecting. The chase lasted for an hour, the creatures tearing through the forest. Finally, the intruders gave up and retreated, their territory markers established. They had won, driving the original resident from a portion of its land. The cameras lost track of their creature after that. It had vanished into the deep forest, injured and alone. "We have to find it," Rebecca said. That wound was serious. Peter started to protest, but Rebecca was already gathering medical supplies. Liam grabbed his field kit without being asked. Amy collected tracking equipment. Within minutes, they were heading into the forest, following the trail of blood and broken vegetation. They found the creature 2 kilometers from camp, collapsed near a rocky outcrop. It was breathing heavily, its massive sides heaving with effort. The wound across its torso was worse than they had thought, deep enough to expose tissue beneath the scales, leaking blood that glowed faintly in the shadows. "That's bioluminescent," Liam said. "The blood carries light-producing compounds. Probably for healing, but it's losing too much." The creature's 4 eyes opened as they approached. It tried to rise, growling low in warning, but collapsed again. The pain was obvious even across species. This was a being in serious trouble. "Easy," Rebecca said softly, keeping her voice calm. "We're here to help." The creature's eyes fixed on her. For a long moment it simply stared. Then slowly it lowered its head back to the ground. Not quite surrender, but acceptance. Or perhaps it was too weak to fight. Liam moved forward carefully, his medical kit open. "I need to clean the wound and stop the bleeding." "This is going to hurt." The creature watched every move as Liam approached. When he reached out with antiseptic spray, it flinched but didn't attack. The spray hissed against the wound, and the creature's whole body tensed, claws digging furrows in the dirt. But it held still. "Good," Liam murmured. "You understand we're helping." "That's good." He worked quickly, cleaning the wound and applying synthetic tissue patches that would encourage healing. The creature's blood was thick and strange, not like human blood at all, but the patches seemed to bond properly. He added antibiotics adapted from their universal medicine kit, hoping the creature's biology would accept them. Throughout the treatment, the creature never looked away from the humans. Its breathing gradually steadied as the pain medication in the patches took effect. Amy recorded everything, her hands shaking slightly but her camera steady. When Liam finally stepped back, the wound was sealed and bandaged. "That's the best I can do out here. It needs rest and time to heal." The creature made a sound, that grinding rumble they had recorded so many times. But this time it was softer, different in tone. Rebecca thought it might be gratitude. "We should get back before those other creatures return," Peter said, watching the trees nervously. They retreated to camp, leaving the creature to rest. But the next morning, Rebecca found something that made her call the others immediately. Outside their camp near the entrance lay a huge portion of fresh meat. It had been cleaned and prepared exactly the way they had seen the creature prepare food on the camera footage. "It came to camp during the night," Amy said. "While injured, it brought us this." "Payment," Liam said. "Or thanks. Or both." "It's more than that," Rebecca said quietly. "It's trust. This creature has survived by trusting nothing. But we helped when it was vulnerable, and now it's showing us that it understands what we did." Over the next few days, the creature returned 3 more times. Each time it left offerings. Meat, unusual plants, beautifully colored stones. Each time it came a little closer to the camp before leaving. Its wound was healing well, the scales already starting to regenerate over the treated area. On the 4th day, it didn't just leave an offering and disappear. It sat at the edge of the clearing, visible in the dawn light, and waited. When Rebecca emerged from her shelter, the creature dipped its head in that same gesture of acknowledgement it had used before. Rebecca approached slowly, stopping 10 meters away. She sat down on the ground, making herself smaller and less threatening. The creature watched her with all 4 eyes. They sat like that for an hour, neither moving, neither speaking. Just 2 intelligent beings acknowledging each other. When Rebecca finally stood to go back to camp, the creature stood as well. It made that soft grinding sound again, turned, and walked back into the forest. But Rebecca knew it would return. The barrier had been broken. The apex predator that trusted no one had learned that sometimes trust was rewarded. Sometimes showing vulnerability led not to death, but to help. She had no idea that this lesson would soon be tested in ways none of them could imagine. The creature would need to trust them with something far more precious than its own life, and that moment was coming soon. The creature appeared at dawn, but something was different. It moved with agitation, pacing back and forth at the clearing edge. Its 4 eyes were wide, and it made sounds the humans had never heard before, high-pitched and urgent. Every few seconds it would start toward the forest, then turn back to look at the camp as if torn between 2 desperate needs. Rebecca woke to Amy, shaking her shoulder. "It's here, and something is wrong. Really wrong." They rushed out to find the creature in clear distress. When it saw them, it made that urgent sound again and took several steps into the forest, then stopped and looked back. The message was clear, even across the barrier of species. It wanted them to follow. "This could be a trap," Peter warned, his hand on his weapon. "No," Rebecca said with certainty. "Look at it. That's not aggression. That's fear. Something has it scared, and nothing scares that creature." They gathered equipment quickly and followed. The creature moved ahead of them, not so fast that they couldn't keep up, but urgently enough that they had to push hard to maintain the pace. It led them deep into territory they had never explored, where the trees grew so thick that the canopy blocked most of the sunlight. After an hour of hard travel, the creature stopped at the entrance to what looked like a natural cave, hidden behind a waterfall that cascaded over smooth rocks. The sound of falling water was loud enough to mask any other noise. Perfect concealment. The creature turned to them and made a different sound, lower and almost gentle. Then it entered the cave, clearly expecting them to follow. "I don't like this," Peter muttered, but he came anyway. Inside, the cave opened into a larger chamber lit by glowing moss on the walls. The air was warm and humid, and there, in a nest of carefully arranged leaves and soft plant material, lay 3 small creatures. "Oh no," Amy breathed. The offspring were tiny compared to their parent, each one barely a meter long. They had the same scaled armor and 4 eyes, but their scales were softer, still developing, and they were clearly sick. Their breathing was labored. Their scales had lost their sheen, and patches of strange fungus grew along their sides and faces. The adult creature moved to the young ones, making soft sounds. One of the offspring tried to respond but could barely lift its head. The parent looked at the humans with all 4 eyes, and in that gaze was something any parent in the universe would recognize: desperate, helpless love combined with terrifying fear. "It's asking for help," Rebecca whispered. "It needs us to save them." Liam was already moving forward, his medical scanner out. The creature tensed as he approached its young but didn't attack. It stepped back slightly, giving him room, though every muscle in its body was coiled and ready. This was trust on a level they hadn't imagined. This was a parent allowing strangers near their helpless children. Liam scanned the first offspring carefully. "It's a fungal infection. Native to this moon, I think. Their immune systems are trying to fight it, but they're too young. Their bodies can't produce enough antibodies yet." He moved to the second and third offspring, scanning them both. Same infection, different stages. This one, he pointed to the smallest, is in the worst shape. Maybe another day or 2 before system failure. "Can we treat them?" Rebecca asked. "Not here," Liam said. "I need the lab equipment back at the station. Full analysis, custom antifungal compounds, probably IV nutrients to support them while they fight the infection. We're talking intensive care." The adult creature watched this exchange, head moving between speakers as if trying to understand. When Liam looked at it and shook his head, the creature made a sound of pure anguish that echoed through the cave. "Wait," Rebecca said. "We can help, but we need to take them to our camp. To our medical facility." She moved slowly toward the creature, showing her empty hands. She pointed to the offspring. then pointed back toward where the camp lay, then made a gesture of gathering and carrying. It was crude communication, but it was all they had. The creature understood. Rebecca was sure of it. But understanding and accepting were different things. This was asking the creature to give them complete control of its young, to hand over the most precious things in its life to aliens it had only just begun to trust. The creature looked at its dying offspring, then at Rebecca. Back and forth, torn between impossible choices. Let them die here or trust the strange beings who had helped once before. One of the offspring made a weak sound, barely audible. The smallest one, the sickest. It was struggling to breathe. The decision broke across the creature's face like a wave. It moved to the offspring and, with surprising gentleness, picked up the smallest one in its massive jaws. The young one was completely limp, too weak to even react. The creature carried it to Liam and carefully, so carefully, laid it at his feet. Then it went back for the second offspring and the third. One by one, it brought its children and placed them before the humans. Each movement was deliberate, painful, like tearing off pieces of its own soul. When all three lay before them, the creature stepped back and made a sound that needed no translation. It was releasing them into human care. "We need transport," Peter said into his communicator. "Emergency medical transport for 3 patients. Prepare quarantine chamber 3 for immediate occupation." The team worked together to secure the offspring in special carrying cases designed for alien biology. The young creatures were too weak to resist, their eyes barely opening. The adult creature watched every movement, its whole body rigid with tension. As they prepared to leave, Rebecca approached the adult. "We will save them. I promise you. We will do everything we can." The creature looked at her for a long moment. Then it dipped its head in that gesture of acknowledgement and trust. But it didn't follow as they carried its young away. It stood at the cave entrance, watching them disappear into the forest, making a sound that was part cry and part song, a parent's lament for children taken from them, even if taken with permission and hope. The journey back to camp was urgent and careful. They couldn't afford to jostle the sick offspring too much, but speed was essential. When they finally reached the medical facility, Liam and his team went to work immediately. The analysis took hours. The fungus was aggressive and had adapted to feed on the specific biology of the creature's species. Liam created a custom antifungal compound, combining human medical knowledge with synthesized elements from the moon's own plant life. He set up IV lines for all 3 offspring, providing nutrients and hydration while their bodies fought the infection. Rebecca stood at the observation window, watching the medical team work. Behind her, she felt a presence. She turned to see the adult creature standing just outside the medical facility, visible through the transparent walls. It had followed them after all. Now it stood vigil, watching its young through the barrier, unable to help but unwilling to leave. "Let it see them," Rebecca said. "Make sure the cameras show the treatment. It needs to know we're helping." All through that first night, the creature remained. It didn't sleep, didn't hunt, didn't move except to shift position for a better view. It simply watched as humans worked to save its children. By morning, 2 of the offspring showed improvement. Their breathing eased, the fungus patches beginning to recede. But the smallest one, the sickest, still struggled. Its vital signs remained weak despite everything the medical team tried. The adult creature seemed to sense this. It made sounds toward the facility, soft and encouraging, as if trying to call its child back from the edge. And maybe it worked, because around noon, the smallest offspring's eyes opened. It saw its parent through the window and made a weak sound in response. The adult creature pressed against the transparent wall, as close as it could get without breaking in. And for the first time since they had met, Rebecca saw something in those 4 eyes that looked like tears. The smallest offspring clung to life by a thread. For 3 days, Liam and his medical team worked in shifts, monitoring every vital sign, adjusting medications, trying everything they knew and inventing treatments they didn't. The antifungal compound was working, but slowly, too slowly for a body so young and weak. The fungus retreated, but it left damage behind. Outside the medical facility, the adult creature never left its post. It didn't eat, though Rebecca left food nearby. It didn't sleep, though exhaustion was visible in the way it held itself. It simply watched, pressed against the transparent wall, maintaining its vigil over its sick child. The other 2 offspring were recovering well. Their scales had regained their shine, and they were strong enough to move around the quarantine chamber. They called out to their parent, who would respond with soft sounds of encouragement. But most of its attention stayed fixed on the smallest one, fighting for every breath in the intensive care unit. On the fourth morning, something changed. The smallest offspring's breathing steadied. The monitors showed improvement in all major systems. The fungus patches had shrunk to almost nothing. Liam emerged from the medical facility, dark circles under his eyes but a smile on his face. "It's going to make it," he told Rebecca. "All three are going to survive." The adult creature heard the tone of his voice and seemed to understand. It made a sound that shook the walls, not aggressive but triumphant and relieved. Other creatures in the surrounding forest scattered at the noise, but the humans just laughed with the same relief. "When can we release them?" Rebecca asked. "Another week," Liam said. "Maybe less if they continue improving this quickly. The smallest one needs more time to build strength, but the danger has passed." Rebecca walked to where the adult creature stood. "Your children are safe. They're going to live." The creature looked at her with all four eyes, and for the first time it lowered its head until it was level with hers. This close, she could see the individual scales, the scars from old battles, the intelligence that burned in those strange eyes. It made a sound, quiet and personal just for her. Then it touched its forehead gently, against the transparent wall where she stood. On the other side, it was a gesture of gratitude and trust so profound that Rebecca felt tears on her cheeks. The next days passed in a strange new routine. The adult creature remained near the facility but began to hunt again, bringing food that it shared with the humans as payment for the care. It seemed to understand that its offspring needed time to heal, and it was willing to wait. Other members of the research team grew accustomed to its presence. Children would be excited to see it through the windows, and it would watch them with curious eyes. Amy documented everything, building a profile of this species that rewrote their understanding of alien intelligence. Peter, initially so concerned about security, began to relax. The creature had proven itself over and over. It wasn't a threat. It was a person as much as any human. On the seventh day, Liam opened the quarantine chamber. The two healthier offspring tumbled out, their movements still a bit unsteady but filled with energy. They rushed to the transparent wall where their parent waited, making excited sounds. The adult creature responded with what could only be called laughter, a rumbling purr that vibrated through the air. But the smallest one remained inside, still too weak for release. It watched its siblings through the window, making sad sounds. The adult creature called to it, encouraging, but didn't demand it come out before it was ready. It understood healing took time. 3 more days passed before the smallest offspring was strong enough. When Liam finally carried it outside, the reunion was something Rebecca knew she would remember forever. The adult creature gently took its smallest child, examining it from every angle, making soft sounds. The other 2 offspring climbed over their parent, all 4 reunited after the longest separation they had ever known. The research team watched from a respectful distance. This was a family moment, private and precious, and they felt honored to witness it. Then the adult creature did something unexpected. It brought all 3 offspring to where the humans stood. One by one, it guided them forward, teaching them to dip their heads in that gesture of acknowledgement. The offspring followed their parents' example, their small heads bobbing in clumsy imitation. They were being taught to respect these strange beings who had saved their lives. Rebecca knelt down, making herself small and non-threatening. The smallest offspring approached her, still wobbly on its legs. It sniffed her carefully, then made a soft sound. Its tiny tongue, rough like sandpaper, licked her hand once before it retreated to its parent's side. "You're welcome," Rebecca whispered. "All of you are welcome." That night, the creature and its offspring didn't return to the distant cave. Instead, they settled at the edge of the camp, close enough to be seen but not so close as to intrude. The adult creature curled its body around the 3 young ones, keeping them warm and safe. But every so often, it would lift its head and look toward the medical facility, toward the place where its children had been saved. The next morning brought a problem that Rebecca had been dreading. Station Command had sent a message. Other humans were coming to the moon. Scientists, yes, but also representatives from the colonial authority. They wanted to evaluate the moon for potential settlement, to assess its resources, to determine if it was suitable for human expansion. "They'll want to know about the creature," Peter said quietly, "about the whole species. And once they know, they'll want to study them. Capture specimens. Run tests. Over my dead body, Rebecca said. That can be arranged, came a new voice. A shuttle was landing near the camp, sleek and official. When the door opened, a woman in colonial uniform emerged, flanked by armed guards. Behind her came more scientists, carrying equipment that looked more suited to capture than study. Dr. Hayes, the woman said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm Director Walsh. We've been reading your reports with great interest. Where is this remarkable creature? Rebecca stepped between Walsh and the forest. This is a research site, not a zoo. The creature is intelligent, peaceful, and under protection of scientific study protocols. Of course, Walsh said smoothly. We simply want to observe. To verify your findings, surely you understand the significance of what you've discovered. An apex predator with tool use and language? This is the most important xenobiological find in a century. The government has a right to study it properly. The adult creature appeared at the tree line, its offspring behind it. It must have sensed the tension, the danger these new humans represented. Its 4 eyes fixed on Walsh and her guards with an intensity that made several of them step back. Magnificent, Walsh breathed. And there are offspring as well? Even better. We'll need to take samples. Blood, tissue, perhaps one of the young ones for detailed study. No, Rebecca said flatly. I'm not asking permission, Doctor. The creature growled, low and threatening. It understood tone even if not words. It moved its offspring behind it, protecting them with its body. The gesture was universally clear. Nothing would touch its children without going through it first. The guards raised their weapons. The creature's scales bristled and it crouched, ready to fight. The smallest offspring, still weak from its illness, made a frightened sound. Stand down, came a new voice over the communicator. All personnel stand down immediately. Walsh's expression turned annoyed. This is a restricted channel. This is Dr. Rebecca Hayes' direct line to headquarters, the voice continued. And this is Administrator Chen. Director Walsh, you're operating outside your authority. Dr. Hayes' research site has full scientific protection. No interventions are permitted without proper review and approval, which you do not have. But the specimens are not specimens. They're intelligent beings under first contact protocols. Any attempt to capture or harm them will result in immediate termination of this mission, and your removal from the colonial service. Am I clear? Walsh's face went rigid with anger, but she lowered her weapon. Perfectly clear, Administrator. The shuttle left an hour later, Walsh and her team retreating with dark promises to return with proper authorization. But Rebecca knew they had won this round. The creature and its offspring were safe for now. 1 year had changed everything. The small research camp had grown into a proper settlement, but not the kind Director Walsh had envisioned. There were no cages, no observation labs with creatures trapped inside. Instead, the building spread out in harmony with the forest, designed to coexist rather than conquer. The adult creature now had a name, though only among the humans. They called it Guardian, for the way it watched over both its territory and the settlement that had become part of it. The 3 offspring had names too. Swift for the fastest one, Bright for the one with the most curiosity, and Little Hope, the smallest one that had almost died, who had grown strong and healthy. Today, Little Hope played near the settlement's edge with a group of human children who had arrived with their families over the past months. The offspring was still smaller than its siblings, but it moved with confidence now, chasing a ball the children threw, its young claws carefully controlled to avoid hurting its playmates. The human children shrieked with laughter as Little Hope caught the ball and tossed it back, a gentle giant already learning the balance between strength and care. Rebecca watched from her office window, a cup of tea growing cold in her hands. Swift and Bright were there too, slightly older and more reserved, but still willing to interact with the young humans. Guardian sat nearby, keeping watch but no longer tense. This was normal now. This was home. The door opened behind her. They're here, Liam said. Rebecca took a deep breath and turned away from the peaceful scene. All of them. Every member of the Colonial Council. Plus representatives from a dozen different research institutions. Plus, he paused, 3 ships from the galactic community. The aliens are here? Amy asked, looking up from her computer. Real aliens? We're the aliens to them, Peter pointed out. But yes, first contact representatives from 3 different species. They want to see what we've been doing here. A year ago, Rebecca's reports had caused chaos in human space. An intelligent apex predator that used tools, had language, and could form cross-species bonds. It challenged everything they thought they knew about intelligence, about evolution, about what made a being worthy of protection and rights. The debate had raged for months. Some wanted to classify guardian species as animals to be studied. Others argued for full sentient status. The matter had gone all the way to the galactic community, the alliance of spacefaring species that humanity had only recently joined. Now they were here to make a final determination. And their decision would affect not just Guardian and its offspring, but the entire moon and any other members of their species that might exist elsewhere. Rebecca walked to the landing area where the ships had set down. The Colonial Council emerged first, Administrator Chen leading them. She had been Rebecca's supporter from the beginning, but even she looked nervous now. "Dr. Hayes," Chen said quietly, "is the creature ready?" "Guardian is ready," Rebecca corrected. "And yes, it understands what's happening today." The alien representatives emerged from their ships. One was tall and crystalline, light refracting through its body. Another was covered in soft fur and had 6 limbs. The third was aquatic, moving in a specialized environment suit filled with water. All 3 studied the settlement with intense interest. "Where is this being?" the crystalline alien asked, its voice like wind chimes. "This creature that has sparked such debate?" Guardian emerged from the forest and the clearing fell silent. The creature moved with controlled power, each step deliberate. Its scales caught the light, years of life written in old scars and new growth. Behind it came Swift and Bright, not Little Hope, who remained with the children. Guardian had made that choice specifically. It was bringing its strongest offspring, showing what its kind could become but leaving the youngest safe. The alien representatives watched as Guardian approached. It stopped 10 meters away and sat, a posture of respect but not submission. Then it did something Rebecca had taught it over months of careful practice. It raised one massive claw and made a gesture, a specific pattern that meant greeting in the galactic community's common language. The crystalline alien's light flickered with surprise. "It knows our protocols?" "Guardian learns quickly," Rebecca said, "as do its offspring. They've mastered basic symbolic communication, understand abstract concepts, create art, and teach their young. They meet every criteria for sapient status." "Creating art doesn't make one sapient," said a human council member, one who had opposed Rebecca from the start. "Trained animals can be taught to paint." Guardian made a sound, that grinding rumble they all knew. Then it moved to a flat area and began arranging stones and sticks. The council members watched as it created a pattern, abstract but clearly intentional. When finished, Guardian stepped back. The pattern showed the settlement, the forest, and 2 groups of figures, one human-shaped and one that looked like Guardian species. They were arranged not in conflict but in harmony, overlapping territories, sharing space. "A map," the aquatic alien said, its voice bubbling through its suit's speakers. "It's showing us how it views this place. A shared territory between equals. Or a trick taught by the researchers," the opposing council member insisted. Guardian made an annoyed sound and began creating something else. This time the pattern was more complex. It showed 3 small figures in a building with a larger figure outside, then paths leading between them. It was depicting the medical crisis, the trust it had placed in the humans, the healing of its offspring. "It's telling a story," Amy whispered. "Its own story." Swift and Bright joined their parent, adding to the creation. They added smaller details, showing the gift exchanges, the first meeting, the fight with the intruders. Between the 3 of them, they created a history in stone and stick that needed no translation. The crystalline alien moved closer, examining the creation. "This is not trained behavior. This is consciousness expressing itself through available medium. This is art as communication, as memory, as culture." It turned to the council. "The question before us is answered. This being and its kind are sapient. They must be afforded full protection under galactic community law." "I concur," said the aquatic alien. The furry 6-limbed alien made a gesture with 2 of its limbs. "As do I. This world must be declared a protected territory, jointly administered by humans and the native species." The human council members looked at each other. Administrator Chen spoke first. "I support this designation. Humanity must set a precedent here. We're not conquerors anymore. We're neighbors." One by one, the other council members agreed, even the one who had opposed Rebecca. The evidence was too clear, the moment too historic to resist. This was first contact done right, cooperation instead of exploitation. Guardian seemed to understand that something important had happened. It made a sound like a question looking at Rebecca. She smiled, tears streaming down her face. You're protected. Your offspring are protected. This world is yours as much as ours now. No one can take it from you. Guardian moved forward, closing the distance between them. It lowered its head and gently touched its forehead to Rebecca's, that gesture of trust and gratitude it had learned a year ago. Then it called out, a loud sound that echoed through the forest. Little Hope came running from the settlement, the human children following. The youngest offspring bounded to its parent, still awkward but full of joy. The human children stopped at a respectful distance, but they waved at Guardian, and it dipped its head to acknowledge them. This is the future, Administrator Chen said, addressing all gathered. Humans and Guardians kind, raising their young together, learning from each other, protecting each other. This moon will be the first joint protectorate in galactic community history, a place where two intelligent species share one world as equals. That evening there was a celebration. The human settlement lit bonfires, and Guardian's family joined them at the edge of the light. The creatures didn't understand all the human customs, but they understood joy and shared triumph. Little Hope curled up near the fire, exhausted from playing all day. Swift and Bright stood guard, protective but relaxed, and Guardian sat beside Rebecca, both of them watching the flames dance. You trusted us with your children, Rebecca said quietly. That changed everything. Not just for your family, but for our entire species. You taught us that trust is stronger than fear, that compassion can cross any divide. Guardian made a soft sound, almost like a sigh. It had trusted no one for so long, survived by being alone and fierce. But that day, dying offspring had forced a choice. Trust or lose everything. It had chosen trust, placed its most precious treasures in alien hands, and those hands had been gentle. That single act of desperate faith had changed the fate of worlds. Across the clearing, Little Hope opened its eyes and made a sleepy sound. A human child sitting nearby with her parents waved at the young creature. Little Hope waved back, a clumsy imitation of the human gesture. The child giggled, and Little Hope made that rumbling purr sound that meant happiness. Guardian watched this and understood. Its kind would no longer be alone. Its offspring would grow up knowing there were others in the universe who would help when needed, who would stand beside them rather than against them. The apex predator that had trusted no one had become the founder of a new future, and in that moment, watching human and Guardians young together, Rebecca knew that this was humanity's true strength. Not weapons or ships or technology, but the ability to see need and respond with kindness, the ability to earn trust from the most unlikely source and honor that trust with everything they had. Above them, 3 moons rose over the jungle, casting silver light across the settlement. 2 species, so different yet so similar, settled in for the night. Parents watching their children, friends gathered around fires, a future being built one moment of trust at a time. The apex beast had trusted no one, until it placed its young in human hands, and in doing so, it had changed the galaxy forever.